Hey everybody, we're the good doctors of Abbey Research. I'm Dr. Erin.
I'm Dr. Kristen.
You are very, very welcome to our YouTube channel today. We are two doctors who have a whole bucket load of experience studying peoples and cultures, so much so that it has fed our obsession of lived and popped culture all around the world. So we have Abbey Research, with which we use our obsession of popular culture to study all kinds of things like sex abuse scandals and unmarked graves in Ireland, or the joy and sorrow that was the early cancellation of Glow. We talk about The Handmaid's Tale and The Crown and a lot of other things as well, all in the service of our company goal. We love to talk to each other. We do it all day long on multiple channels. Even like if we could owl post, we would. Alas, J.K. Rowling lied. But we love to talk to you guys as well. So please make sure you do the YouTubey things, comment below, give us the thumbs up. That helps the algorithm. Like and subscribe. You know what to do, folks. You know what to do. Go do it.
Today, we are on the third stop in our French colonies chapter, and we are talking about the African nation of Cameroon. There's a lot of reasons why we're doing this, but primarily in terms of organization of YouTube playlists, we're doing something called the Colonizers World Tour, and we do it for about 6 months every year. This is our penultimate month of 2020. We'll be hitting up Spanish colonies next and then taking a research break. But we are convinced that we're not talking about colonization enough in terms of historical movements, how it affects people, especially because many countries were not just colonized once, they were colonized multiple times. A lot of countries were both colonized and are colonizers, and there's a lot of things throughout history. And we want to be unpacking things a little bit more than we currently are, especially because we believe that empathy is actually an intellectual posture, and understanding other people can lead you to better human experiences, both with yourself and with others. So in terms of that, what did we know about Cameroon to begin with? I knew it was in Western Africa. I knew that it was both Francophone and Anglophone. And I knew it really didn't love women. It's pretty much my heights. Dr. Erin, anything else?
I knew it was in Africa. Couldn't tell you where. I've bought a map, y'all, so I can cross off or scratch off all the countries we cover so I can get a little bit better at my world geography. I know we have a friend who spent some time there. Literally, that is all I knew. So this was a lot of learning for me. I enjoyed it. Let's start where we always start, by going to the map. As we mentioned, Cameroon is in Central West Africa. It is bordered by Chad, the Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, and Nigeria. And, you know, a little bit of the ocean. It is sometimes referred to as the hinge of Africa because of its central location on the continent and its position at the west-south juncture of the Gulf of Guinea. Throughout the country, there are areas of thermal springs and indications of current or prior volcanic activity. More on that later. Mount Cameroon, the highest mountain in sub-Saharan West Africa, is an active volcano. Fascinating geography. Population-wise, there's about 25, 26 million folks that live in Cameroon. The median age is similar to a lot of sub-Saharan African places, very young, 18 years of age. The estimates for this country, again, we get the same note that we get from a lot of other African countries from the CIA World Fact Book, that the estimates for the population explicitly take into account the effects of high mortality rates due to AIDS and all of the problems that can result from a population that has a high level of that virus going around. The big cities, the capital is Yaoundé, and the smaller, like second largest city is Douala. Languages, as we said, French and English are both official. Again, more on that in a minute. Big source of conflict, which is the giant understatement of our fact sheet here. There are 24 major African language groups that the ethnically diverse population generally fits into. Lots of very different people groups. again, kind of derived from Bantu migrating people groups and then subgroups within that. The currency is the Central African franc. You have to have 553 of them to reach $1. It is a presidential republic with 10 regions. Religious breakdown, again, colonization. Roman Catholic is roughly about 40%, 25% Protestant, a small percentage of other Christian denominations and sects, a decent amount of Muslim population, again, unsurprising given its relative closeness to the Sahara and North Africa. Animist and other local kind of religious faiths exist as well. So that's the demographic rundown, as we always do. Dr. Kristen, what else would you like to share with our friends about Cameroon?
So just so you know, they got independence in 1960. And since then, there's been 2 presidents.
Two.
That's
it.
So as we kind of share some of the rest of this, and as we talk a little bit more about the journey, there's been 2 presidents in 60 years.
Since 1960.
It's not great. So it's a market-based, it's a diversified economy, which usually when we say those phrases, we can talk about a more robust economy. Unfortunately, that's not the case for Cameroon. And some of that reason is because there's been 2 presidents. Oil and gas are still kind of major commodities, about 40% of the economy, but it's significantly underdeveloped in terms of economic resources and economic structure. So there's a stagnant per capita income, relatively, it's pretty inequitable distribution of wealth, a top-heavy civil service. This is really common in underdeveloped things, endemic corruption, again, 2 presidents. And then there's like the constant inefficiencies and bureaucracies of a giant state that is bloated. That's really what it comes down to. 77% of folks over 15 can read and write. To what extent? Great question. I've heard differing reports on the ground. And then we want to go into the demographics a little bit, because this is where the Anglophone Francophone thing, as well as the incursion of Boko Haram in the north, especially, we really need to have a conversation about. So about 60% of the population is under the age of 25. Whenever you hear a young population like that, we want you to have little bells ringing in your head that this is a place with a lot of armed conflict and a lot of physical disease.
Yep.
And so life expectancy remains really, really low, around 55 years. This is not only because of HIV and AIDS and malaria and, some other, various kind of things. It's also high food insecurity, lack of access to clean water, completely inadequate infrastructures, natural disasters. It's not immune to those. Also, internal, external displacement has grown significantly over the years. They have a geographic area of their country that's literally called the Far North, as though it's in Narnia.
Yeah.
And that in particular has been Boko Haram's target for a hot minute, since about 2014, I think.
I think, yeah.
And so we've got a lot of internally displaced persons. We've got Boko Haram's kind of thing is to kidnap children, keep girls as kidnapped victims and eventual wives, and train the boys to be soldiers. That's like one of their shticks. So that's happening. Happy days. Additionally, so that's the Boko Haram of it all. Now we get into the Anglophone Francophone thing of it all. So, Cameroon's a little bit shaped like the mainland of England. A little bit,
yeah.
And if you imagine what is Wales now, all being people who just speak English. That's a little bit of the kind of demographics we're looking at here. So there's been the majority of the population speak French, Anglophone. There is not a lot of overlap. People who speak French don't seem to learn English. People who learn English do not seem to learn French. And so this is a real, the English folks don't feel like they have a voice in government because it's literally a different language. And there's some other stuff with that. Just really, really quickly we're going to get back to the Francophone Anglophone thing, I promise. But I'd like to cover queer life, women, some other stuff really, really briefly. Life life as a Cameroonian woman is not spectacular in terms of freedom, body autonomy, safety. Even outside, even south of where Boko Haram is acting, there's a real culture. And I know this not only from my friend and listening to her talk, but also from the book we reviewed on this channel earlier on Sunday. I showed up on our sister channel, Abby Research Reads, to describe the book Behold the Dreamers by Mbolo Mbue. And she goes into the life of women in Cameroon as well. And it is very much male driven. They're just north of property. And you can tell by the way a lot of men speak that they're not even north of it. Like, it's just north of property. Lots of forced marriages. There's lots of sexual assault. Lots of sexual assault. Lots of genital mutilation as well. In some of the more rural areas, there are reports of it. It's always hard, like reports, but it's a whole thing. There's lots and lots of after sexual assault is committed as well. Children get abandoned because they don't know who their father is. And it's obviously an incredibly patriarchal culture line, and you need to be part of your father's kind of tribe and things. And so this is something that I've read in 5 or 6 articles, and everybody's like, it's terrible, and then doesn't offer a solution.
Yeah, for me, that was one of the crazier things was learning, especially if your mother was abducted and raped by a member of Boko Haram. Like, you can't return to your community. Your children aren't even allowed to receive proper documentation because of who their birth father is. Yeah. Which is an exceptional level of intergenerational shaming. Yep. That is, really upsetting.
And I think we're going to find similar things in Equatorial Guinea when we get there. Either in next year, I think is when we hit Equatorial Guinea. I can't remember our list. Yeah. We're going to find some similar stuff there if my understandings of that part of West Africa are correct. In terms of queer life, it is not great. Like, in giant capital letters, it's fully illegal. It's fully stigmatized. There's lots of reports of murders and abuse in rural areas, especially. Not great. Not great on the liberty factor. Nope. So now let's get into the history of colonization, which is also going to continue to unpack this Anglophone Francophone thing. So Portuguese sailors reached the coast in 1472, 20 years before they began to invade the Americas. Much of the area of present-day Cameroon was ruled by Germany for a little while. We're going to talk about this a lot in Africa, is that prior to World War I, Germany had a lot of land. And then part of their punishment for World War I-ing all over the place that the League of Nations took all their land from them. Heaven forbid we give it back to the indigenous people. Oh. Instead, they gave it to the other European powers, including Belgium, which, if you think everybody else is terrible, guys, hold your horses till next April when we come and have a chat about King Leopold of Belgium. It's going to be a time. You're going to have so much fun and not feel angry at all.
At all ever.
So the Germans, Cameroon, which was spelled very German-like, it's Kamerun. And we're going to talk about why it's named that when Dr. Erin shares her Jeopardy trivia fun fact in a little bit. It was split. The League of Nations took it and split it into French Cameroon and British Cameroon. So why is there an Anglophone Francophone beef? Because of the League of Nations. So French Cameroon became independent in 1960 as the Republic of Cameroon. So then the British Cameroon voted to merge, and then they became the Federal Republic of Cameroon.
Yeah. Fascinatingly, they were given the option of either joining Nigeria or joining the Republic of Cameroon. They were not given the option to do otherwise.
Yeah, in 1961, the Brits had fought the nation of India and were tired. And they were just handing out what here you just go.
Nigeria, Cameroon, pick one. We don't care. You can't have independence.
You can't have independence. You're for whatever reason, you got to go somewhere else. You can't, it's closing time and you can't stay here. So in 1972, they replaced with a federation with this unitary state, which is the United Republic of Cameroon. Okay, we're still again, 2 presidents. So there's lots of drama. The guy that's now is called Biya. He is not fantastic as a leader. No idea what he's like as a human. Can't speak to that. As a president, I'd give him a poor grade.
Absentee. He just doesn't live in Cameroon a lot of the time.
No, he spends a lot of time in France.
A lot of time in France, spending a shit ton of Cameroonian money at French hotels, man.
Which they don't have a lot of to spare. So when we go back to that 1961 decision, Anglophone Cameroon now says they never actually consented to become part of French Cameroon because it was a false decision. Like that it was either or. It was either be part of Nigeria, and I don't know why they didn't choose to be part of Nigeria. I wasn't around in 61 and I didn't see any reasoning. But they didn't. But because they weren't given the choice to be independent, it wasn't full consent. There's also some going backs and forth in some of the scholarship that I read about whether or not it was actually a decision to begin with, and some election rigging and some other things like that. But there's among the Anglophone Cameroonians, there seems to be consent now that there was not consent then. The Anglophone crisis is a direct result of this impact of both colonization and decolonization. These changing borders and the forced assimilation of people groups and new national borders, and no one asking Indigenous folks what they actually wanted, and just kind of making decisions. In terms of what they want now, it's pretty messy and really fascinating. There's a couple of videos in our Google Sheet where we talk to Anglophone folks. There are some people that are like, yeah, I want absolute independence done. You've got other people that are like crying out loud, I would just like us to be able to get jobs. I don't really think we can be independent. I don't think we have the infrastructure. And it kind of runs the gamut. It's very, very similar to other people groups that we've seen like this. I would like to, especially, and I'm scrolling on our list so that I get the gentleman's name correct, James Kerr-Lindsay did a video explaining this entirely from a foreign policy perspective, and it's absolutely genius. It's so clear and concise, and he's got a great, very BBC accent, so like he knows how to be a presenter. If you want to deep dive more into that entirely from a kind of neutral foreign policy perspective, please give that a click. It's called Ambazonia, the Anglophone Crisis in Cameroon, and it's in the linked Google Sheet down in the things below, which if you've never joined us before is a feature on all of our Colonizers World Tour videos. We have living Google Docs underneath the video that we add resources to as we find them, as you guys give them to us. We've had lovely people, especially Guamanians, give us content about Guam that we weren't able to find because of, the limits on search algorithms. Thank you, Google. And so it's always great to get input from other folks. So all in all, there's a lot of tension in Cameroon now. There's videos you'll find from 2017 and into 2019 that say, Cameroon on the brink of civil war, and they might have if there wasn't the COVID. I don't know, but it's massive. There's violence. There's been deaths. There's been property damage. It's not just an intellectual debate for folks. This Francophone Anglophone thing is a core question of how you see yourself as a human. It so appears to us. So you've got Boko Haram in the Narnia North. You've got Francophone and Anglophone everywhere else. You've got women being treated like property. You've got queer life being illegal. Children are not. The economy is. And yet the people seem lovely. And this is so often the case, is that we like to end our videos with a great reminder that the government and the systems are not the people.
Not the same. Yeah.
So there's a very famous author now. I already referenced her, Mbalo Umbwe. Her first book was an Oprah Book Club pick, so that kind of rocketed her. She's got a second one out now. Her books are gorgeous and give a real flavor of Cameroon and Cameroonian America and what that kind of looks like. But yeah, it's infrastructure wise, it's a tough ticket.
Yeah. They've got a whole heck of a lot of concerns going on. So this is now the portion of our 101s where we share our Jeopardy quiz fact.
We might need a graphic for this too. Delightful editor. We might need some sort of Jeopardy graphic because this is where we go into it. Yeah,
I think so.
She will. Yes. She's amazing.
She's the best. I love her. Yes, a Jeopardy like fun fact, pub quiz trivia go-to about Cameroon. What I learned is perhaps one of my favorite Jeopardy like facts I've ever learned in this Colonizers World Tour. Cameroon, and I'm pausing for dramatic effect because it's dramatic, is the only country named after a crustacean. I just see Sebastian from Little Mermaid when I think of it. In the 15th century, as we said, Portuguese explorers were the first Western folks in that area, and they named the area near the mouth of the Wari River the Rio dos Cameros, which translates to the River of Prawns, after the abundant sea prawns in the water. Over time, the Germans arrived. They couldn't pronounce the Portuguese any better than I can, so they changed it to that very Germanic spelling with a K. And then when the French took over and the English, they changed it again to Cameroon with a C. Yeah, it's named after a crustacean. Only country in the world. What a fact. Dr. Kristen, what's your Jeopardy?
Mine are so much less fun. So I'm really struck by the idea that they did never fully consent to becoming part of the country, like that, dig more into that. And then also that there are lakes that are so full of gas that they're literally exploding. And the only other place I've ever heard of where water catches on fire is Cleveland. And so I literally typed error and I was like, oh my God, is Cameroon Cleveland? Like, what is happening
Cleveland? It sounds like it, because boy, has it been through the literal and figurative wars.
Oh my gosh.
As if they needed any other problems, add exploding lakes.
Poor Cameroon.
Poor Cameroon.
Well, we're going to get into, for anyone who's joined us before, welcome back. You know what's coming next. For anyone, this is your first stop with us on the Colonizers World Tour. We always do a 101 video first, and then we do a discussion of an art piece. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow is no different. We will be talking about The Fisherman's Diary.
That's right. We will see you then for that, or whenever we see you again. If you enjoyed this content, and we hope that you did, please make sure and do all those YouTube-y things. They certainly seem to enjoy it when you give it the thumbs up or click the bell so you don't miss any of our other Colonizers World Tour stops. So we hope you will do that, and we hope we will see you again soon.
Bye.